Kathryn called me and posed a hypothetical. What would happen if someone were to launch a nuclear-armed missile at the United States? And from that question, we started calling as many people as we could who had worked in those places, who were experts in that space, and asking them that same question. And from the ground up, we started to build the world of the movie.
You hadn't worked with Kathryn before.
Right.
There's a reason you guys got connected. What your background?
Yes, I've worked as both a journalist and a screenwriter. I was the president of NBC News for 6 years. I got my start in the field covering the Middle East and working in locations around the world. And so this has been an area of focus for me professionally for quite a long time.
To get a call about this, that comes with, I imagine, carries with it a certain...
Well, there's no better call you can get as a screenwriter than Kathryn Bigelow wants to talk to you. I, like many other people, had been waiting with great anticipation for her to make another movie. It's been many years. When she expressed interest in doing another film in the kind of military national security space, of course it immediately evokes Hurt Locker, Zero Dark 30, and I had, I think, an instant understanding of the kind of story that she wanted to tell and what her approach to it would be.
These are the circumstances. In little more than 7 minutes, we will lose the city of Chicago.
So, you know, both Kathryn and I share what I think you could call a journalistic approach to filmmaking. We both start with a desire to render these worlds as authentically and realistically as possible. We both came to the table with a lot of relationships in the space. I had sources from my time running NBC News, people who had worked at the highest levels, the White House, the Pentagon, the CIA. Kathryn has amassed an enormous amount of respect in the national security world because of the work that she did on Hurt Locker and Zero Dark 30. So both of us were able to make phone calls and people were willing to talk. Kathryn demanded realism and authenticity from every department. You see these extraordinary sets that we filmed on. They are almost perfect replicas of those actual spaces. And these are rooms that most people never gain access to. But because she's Kathryn Bigelow and because of the relationships we had collectively, she and our production designer, Jeremy Hindle, were able to get into the battle deck at Strategic Command, get into the White House Situation Room, and then we were able to reconstruct those spaces perfectly. So much so that when our technical advisors were on set during shooting, they were awestruck. They walked into these sets and they said, how did you recreate this so perfectly, down to the grain of wood and the type of carpet?
This is a waste of time.
Sir, a cyber expert could potentially be...
Yeah, we'll find one.
So if we were shooting on our White House Situation Room set, we had the former director of the White House Situation Room every day there with us. When we were shooting in STRATCOM, we had both former and current folks who work in Strategic Command. And in fact, some of those folks who were background extras in the movie are either currently or formerly STRATCOM officers.
It seems to be very important to Kathryn and to you that we see them as ordinary people in extraordinary situations.
I think there's a tendency to look at institutions like the Pentagon, the White House as sort of monoliths. I think there's a tendency to assume that the men and women who occupy these jobs are somehow superhuman or otherworldly. At the end of the day, they're ordinary people just like us. And it was important to both of us that none of these characters were superhumanly noble or preposterously inept, that they were three-dimensional people who had faults, but who were, for the most part, responsible, well-intentioned, doing their best under extraordinarily difficult circumstances.
We did everything right? Right?
Now, for those of us who've seen the film, it seems like an obvious choice how to handle this in terms of a structure.
Yeah.
But was that something that came natural, or did that come through the idea, since you only have 18 minutes, that you're going to kind of do the three paths?
It was a decision that Kathryn and I both made very early on, because I think we both felt like it was important to tell this story in real time. It's one thing to say to people, you only have 18 minutes. It's another thing for people to experience on a visceral level how short that really is. In the first chapter, we wanted to have the audience experience these events through the eyes of the first responders, if you will. The people on the ground floor, the watch officers in the Situation Room, the young soldiers at Fort Greely. These are the people who would be the first to know about this threat, but they have the least ability to actually influence the outcome.
Oscar Foxtrot 4916,
Order is authentic.
The next chapter, we wanted to climb one rung up the ladder of command. So that's where you're with the commander of strategic command, you're with the deputy national security advisor. These people have deep expertise and preparation, but all they can do is offer advice.
That blinding a DSP satellite, it could indicate that we've been compromised.
And then finally, in the third chapter, we wanted to end on the one man whose shoulders this all rests on, the President of the United States, and kind of just ride with him for this frantic 18 minutes as he is forced to decide the fate of all mankind while simultaneously being evacuated and running for his life.
Go, 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 go!
The president's position is a lonely one, and you sort of see the loneliness towards the end as he reaches out to the young military aide for advice. He tries to reach his wife, who's overseas on a trip, grasping for anyone who can help him sort through this decision. There's no greater test than the potential end of the world, and trying to envision and imagine how a range of people would react to that was the fun of writing it.